I have a few questions for Donald Trump. What kind of leader uses a natural disaster to spread lies and then undermine the organizations meant to help people suffering from said disaster? What kind of patriot gains the trust of American people just to rug pull them and then use that trust to lie to them about FEMA aid? Use that trust to lie to them about the administration not helping them, and we know for a fact this has caused on-the-ground problems. Really quickly, this story reads, "Man blames Trump and MAGA cult for father-in-law refusing FEMA help." And this article describes how during Hurricane Helene in Milton, one man says the storm-related disinformation campaign peddled by Donald Trump and other Republicans tore his family apart when his father refused all FEMA help because he's a hardcore Trumper, and he literally believes that if he accepts anything from FEMA, they're going to take his house, which is a lie that Donald Trump intentionally spread to make sure that people aren't taking assistance, to make sure that people feel disillusioned with the government and like the government isn't going to hurt them, because he thinks that if people aren't satisfied with the status quo, they'll vote for the opposing administration, which is usually how it works in politics. But all of this is to say that Donald Trump held an event in North Carolina today that was cynically opportunistic, that was terrible. He rambled about McDonald's and essentially made threats against FEMA, and I want to break all of this down because with 15 days to go, we have no time to waste and we have a lot of work to do. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 600K. I think we can hit it today. So, this is Trump being asked about threats against FEMA workers that he inspired through his disinformation, which we will debunk later on, and Donald Trump essentially says they had it coming, in more words or less. Listen closely to how he talks.
A gunman was arrested, charged with making threats against FEMA workers 2 Saturdays ago. FEMA had a safety stand down because of continued credible threats. Is it helping the recovery effort in North Carolina to keep making these claims that FEMA's not doing their job?
He said a gunman had to stand down due to threats against FEMA. Is it helping the recovery effort to be spreading these lies?
I think you have to let people know how they're doing. If they were doing a great job, I think we should say that too, because I think they should be rewarded. But if they're not doing, does that mean that if they're doing a poor job, we're supposed to not say it? These people are entitled to say it. And these are honest people behind us. If FEMA were doing well, they would be saying they did a good job.
If FEMA is doing a poor job, it's your job as somebody who wants to be the leader of America, essentially the leader of the free world, to find out what the weak points are, to try to fix that, to try to use your position of power to actually guide them in the right direction. But instead, Donald Trump wants to undermine them and make it seem like they're messing up when they're not. Roy Cooper said, FEMA has helped. Governor Kemp said, FEMA has helped. Governor DeSantis said, FEMA and the Biden administration have both helped a lot. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are the only ones saying that FEMA is playing games, and that's because Trump is deflecting.
Not, for the most part, political people. For the most part, they're not political people, but you've obviously seen nothing but very bad statements coming out about the job that FEMA and this administration has done, having to do with this area, North Carolina as a whole, and by the way, other states also.
None of that is true. FEMA has been doing as well as they can. They've maxed out their budget and they're waiting for Congress to approve more aid, which Trump gets asked about later. But again, even if FEMA was making mistakes, is the result to go there with a gun? I mean, Donald Trump is justifying a gunman showing up by saying, quote, well, they weren't doing a good job. What are we supposed to do? Nothing? No, you're supposed to guide them in the right direction. Okay, so in this clip, Aaron Rupar describes, Trump is asked if he thinks North Carolina officials are doing a good job. Trump then pushes the Great Replacement conspiracy theory that has inspired numerous right-wing mass shooters and trashes migrants, and we'll break this all down. Watch this clip.
Clearly, a lot of people here are looking to you to save them and bring them relief, and what better way than to win the White House in 2 weeks?
Right.
I know that you're happy with early results. Are you satisfied with everything this state is doing in the election boards to help these people get to the ballot box? Are you satisfied with it?
Well, I'm not hearing the good things about the governor here like I'm hearing about the governor in Georgia, as an example. I'm hearing the governor in Georgia has done a very good job, and I don't really know the governor here, but I'm not hearing that he's done a very good job. So that's the only thing I can say. And certainly you have all heard the same stories that we all hear, that FEMA has done a very poor job. Our FEMA, when we had a problem, we did record rescues. And the job that FEMA did under the Trump administration was really incredible. But they had spent, in all fairness to FEMA, they had spent hundreds of millions of dollars doing other things that I don't think bear any relationship to this money. They were not supposed to be spending the money on taking in illegal migrants, maybe so they could vote in the election, because that's a lot of people are saying that's why they're doing it. I don't know. I hope that's not why they're doing it. So they really didn't have any money. They don't have very much money. And now they're saying, can we have a special vote? Let's have a special session. I'm in favor of that, but somebody has to get back to why did they spend hundreds of millions of dollars?
Really quickly, what Trump just said right there was a lie. I have to point that out. It is a lie, but keep listening.
On something that they were not supposed to be spending it on, okay?
Okay, so like I said, this is another wicked, deceptive lie that Donald Trump tells about FEMA money going to immigrants rather than going towards disaster relief. These are two separate budgets through Congress. They don't mix, they don't intermingle whatsoever. But Trump also tells a lie that Democrats, along with FEMA, are trying to get immigrants in this country so they can vote in our elections, and then therefore we can sway the country in a way that allows the mass replacement of white Americans with immigrants, with Haitians, whatever Donald Trump is thinking. And this is something that Donald Trump has alluded to many times in the past. This was Trump just 2 days ago talking about Harris being born dumb. She wasn't born smart. And then I want to show you a clip after of him saying that certain people just aren't born with the right genes. And he's also said that immigrants don't have the right genes. I mean, if you piece it all together, all of his talk about some people being born superior, some being born inferior.
I've given my health exams. I've also done cognitive tests twice, and I've aced them, meaning a perfect score. I want to see her do a cognitive test because she couldn't ace because she wasn't born smart.
He says right there she wasn't born smart, and sorry, it was a little bit harder to hear in this clip, but he says she wasn't born smart. Listen to this.
He's the longest serving professor in the history of MIT, like 40 years, 41 years, can you imagine? So this is good. Does anybody believe in genes? You guys believe in genetics? These guys have good genetics too for safety, and that's all we want you for. We don't want you for anything else. We don't want you for anything else. But
okay, so of course we believe in genetics. None of this is to say that genetics don't exist, or even that intelligence can't be passed down among generations. There are studies saying that intelligent parents can produce intelligent childs due to things like genetics, due to things like the environment. But the way that Donald Trump talks about it is different. He has said we have some bad genes coming across the border. When you say that we have bad genes coming across the border, you are directly saying that immigrants are coming over and bringing a different gene pool, or you're implying that they are poisoning the blood of our country. Not implying he said that. He said poisoning the blood of our country. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot that main piece of evidence, but you just combine that with him saying VP Harris wasn't born smart. A lot of these immigrants are born that way. He says they're coming over here, flooding our country, poisoning it so Democrats can have them vote. And here is them joking around at McDonald's at a disaster relief site. And it's okay to bring some humor to stuff like this, but Donald Trump has just made this disaster much worse every step of the way. He has made the disaster worse from day one, not only by spreading lies about FEMA and immigration, not only about spreading lies about FEMA coming to take your house, but Trump has also made multiple opportunistic visits that apparently have cost resources and put up roadblocks when rescue teams are trying to find people. For example, when the hurricane first started, Trump really wanted a photo op about 3 days in, so he visited, and then we got reports that they had to close down vital roads that were bringing aid, bringing resources so that Trump could make a visit. Here's the McDonald's joke.
Offered because, you know, I also own McDonald's restaurants. I know that you perfected your skills behind the counter a day or so ago, and it was my honor to present President Trump with the French fry certification pin.
Is that funny? Is that funny after Donald Trump just told a lie? And just the wild part is, this man standing next to Donald Trump making these jokes released this statement not long back. A few weeks ago, he said on edwards.house.gov, FEMA has not diverted disaster response funding to the border or foreign aid. Disaster response efforts and individual assistance are funded through the Disaster Relief Act, or fund, sorry, which is a dedicated fund for disaster efforts. He then says, FEMA's non-disaster related presence at the border has always been a major concern to me, even before Hurricane Helene, and I will continue to condemn their employment of personnel to the border, but we must separate the two issues. More, FEMA is not going to run out of money. FEMA officials have repeatedly affirmed that the agency has enough money for immediate response and recovery needs over the next few months. So, the man standing next to Trump is Representative Chuck Edwards, says Asen. He recently made news by putting out statements debunking hurricane misinformation so he could guide his constituents in the right direction. Below is a section statement from his website, and now he's standing right next to Trump. And not correcting him in person. It is amazing the effect that Trump has in person on these people. I mean, Trump has free reign to spread disinformation, saying that this has been going. Listen,
gone. They don't have any money. They have to have a meeting in Washington, a special meeting in Washington to get money. It's all gone.
He said it's all gone. He implies that it's going to immigrants, and you know this dude is like, why does Trump have to constantly lie about this? Now, I have another clip to play, but I do want to show you a clip of VP Harris because I feel like it is my obligation. We are a pro-democracy channel, and VP Harris is currently doing an event with Liz Cheney. I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you like the Liz Cheney strategy? There's been a lot of debate on whether or not VP Harris should embrace this Liz Cheney endorsement. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm of the personal opinion that building the broadest tent, building the broadest coalition heading into this election is necessary, and even if that includes Liz Cheney, I don't think she's not the worst person in the world. Let's listen to this.
And I as a follow-up, I would just ask Congresswoman Cheney too. We live in a dangerous time. I mean, I think Americans are watching what's happening overseas, in Ukraine, in Israel. Republicans, we used to be the party that would be on the side of our Democratic allies like Ukraine. Talk to me a little bit, and all of us, about why, from a foreign policy standpoint, you find yourself able to endorse Democrats who didn't used to be that way.
Well, it's not just able to endorse them, but if you look at the numbers of the most senior officials who served Donald Trump, his own vice president, national security advisors, as chief of staff, the leading generals who served him, who've all said he's unfit. And people really need to stop and think about how completely unprecedented that is. And the idea, when people sort of say, well, we might, be tempted for some reason or another to vote for Donald Trump. If the issue is foreign policy, I would just ask everyone, think about how dangerous and damaging it is to have someone who's totally erratic, completely unstable, someone who has aligned himself with, who idolizes tyrants. He idolizes tyrants. Again, the choice here with respect to national security policy is a man who has proven, he's absolutely proven that he will not stand up, he won't defend this nation with respect to our own Constitution and rule of law.
This was an amazing answer from Liz Cheney right here. You can tell that VP Harris was loving it. Look at her face. She's loving this answer. And I think this is a really clever town hall to have, or maybe not town hall, but this is a really clever event to hold with all of these people who may be more conservative leaning, maybe a little bit more moderate, and they are unsure about voting for VP Harris. Here we have Liz Cheney creating the permission structure and saying Donald Trump is unstable. Just look at what people around him have said. And that is something that every single surrogate for the campaign has stuck to very, very closely. They've stuck to the script in the best way possible. Bill Clinton, former President Barack Obama, Liz Cheney, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, they all keep bringing up Mark Milley, because it illustrates the point so perfectly and cleanly. And unfortunately, we now have to return to Donald Trump's disastrous speech. And again, like it says in the title, Donald Trump makes every disaster worse. He has made this disaster worse every step of the way, and I've already explained how, through his disinformation, through his blocking of resources. Trump now says on McDonald's, you never know about life.
But no, the McDonald's stop was very unique. There's no question about that. They really, I'm sure McDonald's liked it, but it just took off. You never know about life, and you never know what's good, what's bad. You do something that's going to be great, it's okay, and you do something that's supposed to be okay. This was supposed to be a routine stop. and it turned into a monster. But it was a beautiful monster. There was a lot.
A little bit of word salad right there. He says, you never know what's good, what's bad. Something's great, something's okay, not good, not bad. And before we play this last clip, I do want to just debunk this in a more thorough way. This MSNBC article reads, false claims about FEMA disaster funds and migrants pushed by Trump. There is no evidence that disaster relief funds were used on immigrants in the U.S. illegally. FEMA disaster money comes from dedicated funds that cannot be used for other purposes. I think if we all have a better understanding of this, we can all debunk it more thoroughly. And this perfectly explains how to debunk it. So these false claims have been boosted by Donald Trump and his recent supporters. Trump and his allies appear to be conflating two different funds. FEMA has dedicated disaster relief money that cannot be used for other purposes. They have dedicated disaster relief money. Separately, it was tasked by Congress a few years back in 2022 to also disseminate money from the Customs and Border Protection to help communities that received influxes of migrants. The false claims have gained significant traction among Trump supporters and conservative media over the past few weeks. Quote, no money is being diverted from the disaster response needs. FEMA's disaster response efforts and individual efforts are funded through the Disaster Relief Fund, says FEMA itself. FEMA had to respond to this claim. I mean, they're diverting resources to debunking Trump's claims. Here's Trump on disaster aid money.
We've heard from several of your Republican colleagues, including Senator Tom Tillis, asking for Congress to reconvene so that more federal funding can be brought to Western North Carolina.
He gets asked about Congress needing to reconvene for more federal money, and if he's in favor of it, let's see what he says.
Well, I would be in favor of it. Yeah, this is a very unusual situation, and I would be in favor of it. Now, you know, in theory, they're supposed to have it, but they spent a lot of money on bringing illegal migrants.
He said it again. This dude just debunked it. I showed you that post where he debunked it, and Donald Trump continues to double down. It's actually blowing my mind. It is blowing my mind. So now that we've looped back to Donald Trump's disaster, him making the disaster worse, I want to leave you on that note. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe. I'm drinking coffee out of my Kamala Rosie the Riveter mug. Use code Mockler for 15% off. They're very, very clean. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.